In May 2019, a mother of 5 went missing after dropping her children off at school. Those close to her immediately knew that something was terribly wrong, and panic washed over them as they frantically searched for her to no avail. Within days of her disappearance, arrests were already being made, but still, she was nowhere to be found. This was just the beginning of a trail of lies, betrayal, conspiracy, and death. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 30 of the Darklivity podcast. I'm your host, Kimbyr, and I'm here with my co-host, my best friend in the world, my husband, Jonathan.
Hi, Darklivity. It's the dark downward slope into the degradation of the human mind and the consequences that such darkness brings to light.
We do have an announcement. The Halloween series naming contest is on, so please go ahead and enter as many times as you like at the link below, and we will be picking 2 names. Therefore, we will have 2 winners, one for this channel, one for my main channel. The winners will get a fall care package and a custom piece of merch that only the winners will have. Plus, of course, bragging rights. So let the games begin. I also want to let you know, we know that this case has been in the media a lot and for a long time. Actually, from the beginning, the media was on this case. Back in 2019, when all of this unfolded, this case has been highly requested. And I wanted to shout out one of our viewers, Cheryl Bosk 6654, who commented and asked us to please do a deep dive. So here we are. Now, it may not be as deep as the Dan Markel case, which, by the way, if you haven't caught up on that case, it's also back in the news. So you might want to watch our deep dive. We will go ahead and put it above in the cards, below in the description box. But this case, like that one, has been a never-ending saga full of all kinds of twists and turns. You may have heard about it already. I'm sure you have, but even if it's on a very surface level, I'm telling you, if you've never stumbled upon our storytelling style before, we do deep dives into cases and make sure that the most important information you come away with is about the victims. So today we will do our very best to bring you everything we could find about Jennifer Dulos, the mother of 5 that seemed to vanish into thin air back in May of 2019. Let's start at the very beginning, when life was good and no one knew the chaos that awaited them. Jennifer Farber was born to her parents Hillard and Gloria Farber on September 27th, 1968. She was their second child. Jennifer has one older sister named Melissa. During Jennifer's childhood, the Farber family resided in a 5th Avenue apartment building in New York City near Washington Square Park and Greenwich Village. I probably don't have to say this, but they were very well off. To say the Farbers were merely successful would be an understatement. Hillard, Jennifer's father, held the position of the youngest vice president of Chase Manhattan Bank. After his tenure, Hillard became a fellow at the Brookings Institute, a prestigious think tank, and eventually he founded his own brokerage firm called Hillard Farber and Company. Jennifer's mother, Gloria, had a doctorate in early childhood education, and you may have heard of Jennifer's aunt. Her name is Elizabeth Claiborne, the founder of the fashion company Liz Claiborne Incorporated.
Jennifer's upbringing in a privileged family opened her up to a world of opportunities. Her parents' success provided her with access to quality education, extracurricular activities, and a very supportive social and familial network. Growing up in Greenwich Village, Jennifer had the opportunity to experience a diverse and culturally vibrant community. And of course, the lively art scene and community interactions greatly enriched her life. Even though Jennifer had more than just a comfortable upbringing, her parents made sure not to spoil her and give her anything she wanted. Instead, they taught her the importance of humility, hard work, and kindness. These lessons she carried with her throughout her life.
One of Jennifer's closest friends described her as someone who was always content just curling up on the sofa watching her favorite movie, Flashdance. If you don't know, Flashdance was released back in 1983, and it tells the story of Alex, a young woman who works in a Pittsburgh steel mill by day and performs as a dancer at a local bar by night. It kind of reminds me of Dirty Dancing, same vibe. And these are the types of things I love learning about these individuals we talk about in these cases. While Jennifer was engrossed in the movie, she, like many of us, would indulge in her favorite treats. Her go-to snack was a combination of French fries, Diet Coke, and peanut M&Ms. That is definitely speaking to me. Except I don't do diet anything, but I do love soda and peanut M&M. So what's your favorite snack? Leave it in the comments. And what about you?
I like peanut butter M&Ms and Reese's.
Almost Halloween. Jennifer loved peanut M&Ms so much that she actually always kept a pack of them in her purse in case of an emergency.
In addition to her love for movies and snacks, Jennifer had a passion for music. Some of her favorite artists include The Cars, The Clash, Talk Talk, Bob Dylan, and Joan Baez. She had a diverse taste in music and enjoyed listening to a variety of genres from different eras. Jennifer was also a bookworm who loved diving into different literary works. Some of her favorite authors included Gretchen Rubin and Cheryl Richardson.
All in all, Jennifer was a remarkable, well-rounded woman who had a good head on her shoulders and captivated almost anyone she came in contact with. One reason for that was Jennifer's beauty. It was undeniable. She had these gorgeous big brown eyes, a dazzling smile that reminded many people of Cindy Crawford. She really does look similar. However, it was more than just her good looks that drew people towards Jennifer. What truly set her apart was her genuine, intelligent, and humorous nature. Although she could be soft-spoken sometimes, she had a very charming personality. Coming from a family like hers, she knew how to work a crowd and to make a great impression. I feel like it's almost expected when you have that kind of upbringing that you need to be personable and know how to walk into a room and carry yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if she went to cotillion or some sort of manor school. But also being around her parents, I'm sure they're very outgoing, and that all rubbed out on her. She was also a nationally ranked squash player.
I had forgotten what squash was, but it's a racket sport that's played on a squash court. You hit the ball against the court's walls. It kind of reminds me of, what's that other one when you...
Racquetball?
Racquetball, exactly.
Jennifer wasn't just beautiful, well-rounded, and charming. She was also very intelligent. After graduating high school, she attended Brown University, which is known as a highly esteemed institution located in Providence, Rhode Island. It has a strong academic reputation and a comprehensive curriculum, which is how Brown earned its place as one of the most prestigious universities in the country. Attending Brown University is a very significant achievement. It requires academic excellence coupled with a lot of hard work and ambition. After receiving her undergraduate degree from Brown University, Jennifer moved back home to New York City and pursued her passion for writing. She enrolled in a writing program at the Tisch School of the Arts at New York University, where she would eventually obtain her master's degree in writing.
And while she was at NYU, Jennifer met her future best friend, Carrie Luft, when they were both 21 years old. They just really hit it off and remained lifetime friends. In 1999, after years of academics, 31-year-old Jennifer decided to go on a little cross-country adventure with her best friend, but not her human best friend, her furry one, her King Charles Cavalier named Sophie. Along the way, Jennifer made a pit stop in Las Vegas, where she experienced the thrill of the vibrant city. When she finally arrived in Los Angeles, California, Jennifer celebrated her accomplishment of making it across the country. And I really do commend her for driving all that way, especially by herself. I know her dog was with her. But that following year, Jennifer decided to make the move from New York to Colorado. And sadly, just a year later in 2001, Jennifer tragically lost her longtime furry companion, little Sophie. It's so sad. The story reminds me of my little Kingston. I rescued him a year before I was pregnant with my first daughter, Shyla, and I brought him all the way from California to Florida, and he's still with us. He even got to see the new baby come into the world. He's hanging in there at 14 years old, but sadly, I know the day will come when we have to say goodbye. And while Jennifer had to say goodbye to her friend and beloved canine, she had no idea that an old acquaintance was about to re-enter her life. And this would change her life forever.
This life-changing event happened in 2003. Jennifer found herself in an Aspen airport in Colorado when she unexpectedly ran into one of her former classmates from Brown University, Fotis Dulos. It was a pleasant surprise for Jennifer to run into Fotis, who had only been 1 year ahead of her when they first met in 1986. You see, Jennifer was only 18 at the time. Fotis had since obtained a master's degree from Columbia University and was living in downtown Manhattan in New York. Jennifer had always been fond of Fotis and thought they had really good chemistry. But after their chance encounter at the airport, Jennifer had no idea she would ever see Fotis again. However, in January of 2004, she received an email from him saying that he had been thinking of her and hoped that the two of them could get together. Jennifer was excited to hear from Fotis and found herself wanting to know more about him, what his goals were, and where he saw himself in the future to see if what they wanted in life aligned. And as they began talking more and more, Jennifer learned that Fotis shared many of her same aspirations. They both really wanted a loving marriage and a large family.
Though they had a lot in common at this point in life, they had very different upbringings. Fotis Dulos was born in Turkey to his parents Cleopatra and Petros Dulos on August 6th of 1967. He was just about a year older than Jennifer. He had one sister, Rena, who was 13 years older than him. And even though he was born in Turkey, Fotis was raised in Greece, where he spent his childhood. He was outgoing and charismatic and grew into quite a handsome man, and it was his charm that further enhanced his appeal with the ladies. In addition to his natural charisma, Fotis was highly intelligent and possessed a sharp sense of humor. Plus, he was an international water skiing champion. He was pretty much the entire package, just like Jennifer was. They made a really good match. Despite his humble upbringings, Fotis possessed a worldly and sophisticated demeanor. He carried himself well, knew how to dress, and always looked polished and professional. His style and confidence definitely made him stand out in a crowd, and people were drawn to his magnetic personality. You can probably see why Jennifer was drawn to him, and he was drawn to her. They just made sense.
But there was an issue. In 2003, when Fotis and Jennifer had their chance encounter at the Aspen airport, he was already married to a woman named Hilary Vanessa Aldama.
Yeah, that would be quite the obstacle in the way of Jennifer and Fotis being more than just friends.
Right. Fotis' wife, Vanessa, was also a fellow Brown University graduate who studied law. The couple tied the knot back in the year of 2000, but by the time Fotis crossed paths with Jennifer, their marriage was already on the rocks. By July 2004, Fotis and Vanessa had officially divorced. And the split was pretty amicable. It made it a lot easier because they didn't have any children together. And just a month after finalizing this divorce from Vanessa, Fotis and Jennifer got married in a ceremony in Manhattan.
That was fast, and I kind of feel like, okay, they didn't really even date before they went right into marriage, but sometimes you just know what you want. But we told you that Jennifer was a writer. It's what she studied in school, it's what her master's degree was in, and she loved writing and would keep journals online. She explained that before she was married, when she was still single, her father had said to her that the person that she would end up marrying was someone that she already knew. She always wondered who it would be, and when Fotis crossed her path twice, she said serendipity cast its spell. The man she had met her first week of college and befriended back then, a man she had always liked and felt she had a special chemistry with, were careful to be careful with one another, her words, until lightning had finally struck. That's pretty magical. She wrote that sometimes the best in life is right at your doorstep. And she said, they say you can't find a man sitting on your couch, but she begs to differ. And I do too, because now the fact that we have dating sites, you can meet someone sitting on your couch or anywhere, but also because I met you by simply walking next door to my friend's house at the time. And years later, here we are. We're married. We have a baby, 2-month-old. So I believe in love that comes out of nowhere and is right in front of you.
After their wedding ceremony, Jennifer and Fotis packed up their belongings and left New York City for the suburbs of Connecticut. Having children had always been a priority for both of them, and within just a couple of years of marriage, they were blessed with a set of twin boys.
Now, I did wonder, and it's because I'm very interested in knowing every little detail of these cases, but also because of their age, and of course, because of my age, getting pregnant at 41 here, if they had any help getting pregnant. I know that people can have twins naturally, but in 2006, when the twin boys were born, Jennifer would have been about 38 years old, and it's not terribly old, but it is harder after women hit 35. Either way, whether natural or with help, little Petros and Theodore were born. They were named after Greek Orthodox saints, and that would be a trend going forward when naming the rest of the Dulos children. And of course, there would be 3 more. Petros was also Fotis' father's name. He had passed away a couple years before at the age of 92. So they most likely gave their first son the name Petros as a tribute to him.
As they adjusted to life with twins, they realized their family was about to expand even more and fast. Just 2 years later, in 2008, they welcomed a second set of twins into their family, this time a boy named Constantine and a girl named Christiane.
And having two sets of twins was why I thought they probably did IVF, but they weren't done yet. They thought they were, but just 2 years later in 2010, Jennifer had their last child. They named her Cleopatra Noel, or Clea Noel, or just Cno for short. Cleopatra was also Fotis's mother's name, so they most likely named their last daughter after her. And I can't help but wonder why no tribute was given to anyone in Jennifer's family when it came to incorporating any of the family's names into the children's names. But I think after knowing as much as I do about this case, what Fotis wanted, Fotis got. And wow, that's a lot of children in a relatively short amount of time. But as much as their world was now full of chaos, it's exactly what both Fotis and Jennifer had always dreamed of. And life was good. She was now a mother of 5 at the age of 42. Wow, I just turned 42 in June, and I can't even imagine, but what a blessing for this family.
And what made it easier was that they could afford to live comfortably, even with that many kids. Because back in 2004, Fotis founded his own company called 4 Group. It's a real estate development company based in Connecticut, specializing in building luxury homes. The name of the company was a combination of the first 2 letters of his name, F-O for Fotis, and R-E for the first 2 letters of his sister's name, Rena. They may have been 13 years apart, with Rena being Fotis' senior, but they were very close.
See, more names from Fotis in his business, and there's definitely a pattern there. But I have to stop and mention a family tragedy that occurred on September 6, 2010. It happened around 7 p.m. in the driveway of the Dulos home on Deercliff Road in Avon, Connecticut, where they were living at the time with their 5 children and their nanny. Fotis was away in Italy, and his mother, Cleopatra, who was 77 years old, was staying with Jennifer and the kids. Now, just a few months before this, back in the summer in July, Cleopatra had actually suffered from what was described as a severe accident when she fell down a flight of stairs and suffered injuries to her head. She cracked her skull, she had internal bleeding, and a broken arm. After she began to recover, she was still complaining of dizziness as recently as a day before this tragedy occurred in September. Cleopatra had asked the nanny to move the family's Land Rover near the garage so it would be easier for her and one of the children to get inside as they were getting ready to go somewhere together. Cleopatra still had a broken arm from the previous incident. As the 24-year-old nanny was moving the vehicle, Cleopatra asked her to turn on the headlights, and when the nanny did what she was told, she looked down towards the instrument panel, and Cleopatra, unbeknownst to the nanny, bent forward, presumably to check if the lights had gone on, but in the process, she slipped and fell, and the nanny proceeded to move the Land Rover forward without knowing that at the moment, when she was looking downward, Cleopatra was on the ground right in front of the vehicle. The nanny assumed that she had moved away from the car at this point, and she was not in sight as she pulled forward and she ran over her. One of the children screamed from the back seat, observing the car rolling over their grandmother. That's really, really sad and would be very terrifying.
When the medical personnel arrived on the scene, Cleopatra was in pain, but she was alert and conscious. There were tire marks across her lower back and on her clothing. Unfortunately, she did not survive and was later pronounced dead at St. Francis Hospital in Hartford. Her death was thoroughly investigated by the Avon Police Department, and it was ruled a complete and freak accident. There was no criminal intent found on the part of the nanny, although she was eventually replaced in 2012.
I cannot imagine how shocking that would have been for the entire family, the nanny, and of course, the young children. It's very sad.
By the time 2012 came around, the Dulos family relocated from their home in Avon to a 15,000 square foot mansion in Farmington. This luxurious home, located at 4 Jefferson Crossing, consisted of 6 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, and 4 garages. This mansion was actually designed by Fotis and was valued at approximately $4.5 million. This was his specialty, building luxury homes, so of course he had to live in a home that reflected his expertise. He bought properties, gutted them, reconstructed them into more high-end homes, and sold them through his company. The houses were meticulously built, ranging from 10,000 to 20,000 square feet. Each home was custom-made to meet specific requirements of the client. In home development circles, Fotis was known to be very successful and at the top of his game. which led him to come off as brazen and flashy. What people on the outside may not have known was that Fotis was not exactly self-made. He had some help, a lot of it actually, specifically when it came to starting his business. Jennifer's father, Hillard, provided financial assistance to his son-in-law in the form of investing in Four Group. The agreement was that Fotis would repay Hillard for the profits earned after acquiring property and selling the luxury homes he built. The prices of the homes were exorbitant, with some selling for as much as $1 million to $5 million. And his company was active in several areas, including New Canaan, Litchfield County, and Long Island, New York. As a matter of fact, Hillard started loaning Fotis money to help start his business way back in 2004 when he and Jennifer first got married. These loans were in the millions. Additionally, Jennifer's parents lent the couple $2.5 million, acting as guarantors on the mortgage for their 15,000 square foot home in Farmington. Fotis also built a separate 2,500 square foot office space over the garage, serving as his company's headquarters.
I want to go back to the home that the Dulos family was living in. It's not just how big and luxurious this home was, but also its location. They lived in a very affluent area. The homes were not crammed together. They were expansive on these huge lawns, quiet streets tucked away from the main roads in town. It's a world of its own, one filled with privilege and comfort, where families enjoy charity brunches together as their children wear designer clothes and do ballet and lacrosse on the weekends, just to paint a picture of what it's like living in Farmington, Connecticut.
At the time, while Fotis was expanding his real estate development business, Jennifer was a stay-at-home mother, as well as a writer for a website called Patch.com. Patch.com is a local news and information platform that employs hundreds of journalists to write on many human interest topics as well as local stories. Jennifer also posted on her own blog called 5makes7.com. It's a place where Jennifer would share about her life as a mother of 5 and some of her innermost thoughts and feelings.
I've read a number of her posts, and she really is a great writer. She truly painted a picture of what motherhood was like. She often wrote about her children and what each of them were doing at different stages in their childhood. It was lighthearted, but also serious at times, as she went through all the relatable struggles of being a mom, especially to so many children within just a few years of one another, and having a husband that was very busy and hardly had time to give his undivided attention to their children. He was building an empire, so it makes sense why the family truly needed a nanny to help out. They hired Lauren Almeida. At the time, she was a senior in college studying psychology at the University of Connecticut, and initially, she accepted a babysitting job for the Dulos family. She'd been working at a daycare center, and she heard that Jennifer might be looking for some extra help. So Lauren and her sister Ashley began babysitting for the Dulos children around the fall of 2012. This job ultimately became the starting point for Lauren to become their full-time nanny. She was about 21 years old at the time and just graduated from college in May of 2013. So she decided to take on the full-time position as the Dulos nanny. She was very dedicated to helping the family, and it didn't take long for the kids and Jennifer and Fotis to consider Lauren as part of the family. She came on board when Petros and Theodore were 6, Constantine and Christiane were 4, and little Noelle was only about 1 year old.
They were all very active from an early age. After all, their father is an international champion water skier. When they weren't learning water skiing in the summer, the children were drawn to the slopes and would often accompany their parents on their snow skiing adventures. One of the family's favorite places was the Black Diamond Slopes in Aspen, Colorado. As they got older, the 2 oldest sons, Petros and Theo, showed a remarkable talent for water skiing. Fotis had always been high energy and athletic, and he expected his children to share his competitive interest in sports. He wanted to raise elite athletes, whether they liked it or not. So he pushed them and coached them. By the age of 9, Petros and Theo were both internationally ranked water skiers. Fotis didn't view sports as recreational. Everything had to be highly competitive. So to nurture his sons' water skiing careers, he eventually brought a coach from Greece to train them at a local pond, and he became well known amongst the local club members. Water skiing became an integral part of their family's lifestyle, and they would often spend weekends practicing the sport.
The children were involved in a wide range of extracurricular activities in Farmington. They participated in dance, art, music, Lego club, swimming, soccer, tennis, ice skating, hockey, horseback riding, and snow skiing. The family loved to travel and they had the means and support to do so. This allowed them to explore various destinations. Some of their favorite vacation spots included Aspen, Florida, and Greece. Through it all, Jennifer's number one priority were always the children. She dedicated herself to being a devoted mother above all else. Despite hiring a full-time nanny and a housekeeper, Jennifer remained actively involved in her children's lives. She was the kind of mom that went above and beyond. For example, when the children were younger, Jennifer took them to swim classes at the School of Swimming in Rocky Hill daily for hour-long swimming lessons. Jennifer would express her appreciation to the instructors by actually writing notes to them at the end of each session, and these notes served as a token of her gratitude, thanking them for their time and effort in caring for her babies. That's the type of person Jennifer was. And while living in Farmington, the children attended Renbrook School in West Hartford. Jennifer volunteered at the school and often hosted school gatherings at their home. In addition to her volunteer work, she diligently worked at the school. Caroline Buckley, a friend of Jennifer's for 12 years, said that Jennifer attended every single event at Renbrook School for her children.
When the class had a project, Jennifer would invite all the other moms over to bond and work together on all types of creative assignments with their children. She also loved making Halloween costumes for all her kids. She wouldn't just go buy store-bought ones. Instead, they would be meticulously handcrafted, requiring hours of work and dedication. She would spend weeks pouring her heart and soul into these awesome costumes, ensuring her children would be the most unique trick-or-treaters on the block.
I love that, and I used to do that every year when I was growing up as well.
In return for all the help that Jennifer did, her kids, who knew how much Jennifer loved peanut M&Ms, would often save all the ones they got in their Halloween bags to give to their mother, and when they were old enough, they'd go out of their way and buy them for her as a special gift. They would even hide them in their pockets or sneak them into their purse without her knowing. Jennifer would always go out of her way to make sure she was excited and grateful for the gesture.
So, of course, we're telling you all about the positive things in the Dulos' lives, but no one's life is perfect. No one's relationship is perfect. I think we all know that. And there were cracks starting to form in Jennifer and Fotis' marriage. Jennifer grew increasingly uncomfortable with Fotis' approach to parenting. She began to feel like he was too demanding and placing excessive pressure on the children to perform in sports. The children were unhappy with the expectations placed on them, and they begged their mom to intervene. She addressed this by signing them up for conflicting activities to limit the time with their father, a decision that angered Fotis. And over time, he showed his true colors, that he had short fuse and a quick temper. He complained that Jennifer had overcommitted the children to activities without his permission. And that right there is a red flag. They don't belong to one parent. These decisions should be made together. But Fotis seemed to exert control over not just the kids, but his wife as well.
In the beginning, the relationship was filled with love bombing, grand gestures, and grandiose promises by Fotis of an extravagant life together. But over time, Fotis was gone as much as 10 days a month, but not for work. He would travel around competing in different water skiing competitions. He seemed to never be around, and Jennifer expressed her thoughts and feelings on her blog.
Exactly. And in 2012, Jennifer wrote, quote, "When you decide to put an end to the cycle of deprivation in your life, you'll need to start saying no, setting limits, and putting boundaries in place to protect your time, energy, and emotional needs. This poses a huge challenge for most caring individuals. Why? Because inevitably, you'll end up disappointing a friend, and you can rest assured that you will piss off a spouse who suddenly has to do his own laundry because you've decided that you're no longer going to play housemaid to everyone who lives under your roof. Don't be surprised if someone close to you, a best friend, a family member, or a spouse, tries to pull you back into the fold of compliance. And when this happens, the worst thing you can do is give in. When you do, you give mixed messages and you teach people not to trust your word. Instead, you need to be honest, direct, and appropriately remorseful, and that's it. Don't over-explain, defend, or invite a debate about your decision. The fewer words, the better," end quote. I think we know what she's trying to say. The man's gone. When he comes back, he expects the dinner on the table, the clothes cleaned and pressed. And she's like, wait a minute.
Jennifer wouldn't talk badly about Fotis in public, and she rarely even referenced any of their issues in her blog. But when she did, she described him as giving their children his attention as a treat. And in a 2013 post, she implied that it was very rare for him to give his undivided attention and care, almost like they were possessions.
And that's sad, but I can see it. I recall reading a post from back in January of 2012 where Jennifer mentioned Fotis. She didn't do that often, but when she did, like you said, she would go into details. First, she mentioned moving into their new home and how their son Petros wished they didn't need a babysitter, that Fotis could spend more time with them. Then she mentioned Theodore coming home from school sick and how little Cleo Noel was finally walking a lot now that she was 15 months old. But finally, at the end of the post, she talked briefly about Fotis saying, quote, "Fotis, I'll include you too." And then she talked about how he plays soccer at 10 p.m. with a friend. I can see what she was trying to say without saying much at all, because that's all she mentioned before going into a very long paragraph about how she's busy doing all the drop-offs and pickups for the kids, birthday parties, meetups with the kids' friends. But recall I told you the story her dad told, that she was going to marry someone that she already knew? Well, this was the blog post where she mentioned that. At the very end of the post, she signs off with "Happy anniversary to Fotis," saying, "Test, are you there?" Kind of like when you're on a walkie-talkie and you're wondering if your message is being heard. Clearly, she felt he was distant. That is clear. Distant and selfish. They had been married 8 years at this point, and they already moved 5 times, had 5 kids and some pets. And to me, in her blog, she does sound grateful but tired and maybe craving some attention from her husband. Throughout their marriage, Fotis felt entitled to Jennifer's family's assets, using them as a personal line of credit. He often had multiple properties under construction simultaneously, financing his business with loans guaranteed by Jennifer's family. It appeared his business was the most important part of this man's life. Therefore, his own family took a back seat.
Despite their challenges, Jennifer and Fotis remained committed to making their relationship work, and part of that commitment was making plans for their future. By 2016, Fotis wanted to expand his business to Fairfield County, specifically the New Canaan area of Connecticut. It's one of the wealthiest towns in Connecticut. Back in 2008, it was ranked as the top-earning town in the country. It would be yet another step up for the Dulos family. Fotis wanted the children to obtain a top-notch education and planned to pull them out of the Renbrook School in Farmington and enroll them in the New Canaan Country Day School, a prestigious private school known for its exclusivity and academic excellence. So they put their mansion on the market, and Fotis began planning to build a new home for them in New Canaan. However, before dreams of starting fresh in a new place would come true, Jennifer had a sneaking suspicion that Fotis was cheating. He would take extended trips without her, and there were clues that another woman may have been involved with him. Their nanny Lauren would regularly assist with the kids when Fotis was alone traveling with them, and also when Jennifer needed help. She knew who they interacted with and the intimate details of their lives. In September of 2013, Lauren began working at the foregroup, half the time as an extra part of her duties whenever the kids were in school. She would help out with the administrative work, and it was then she really began to take notice that Fotis would travel a lot without Jennifer or the kids. At first, it appeared to be part of the job, but as time went on, it seemed a little odd that he went away so much. This was one of the first clues that Fotis could be cheating. Meanwhile, the children were very attached to Jennifer. She was also an incredibly nurturing mother. She never raised her voice, and she was always pleasant and kind, and the children absolutely adored her. On the other hand, they had a more superficial relationship with Fotis. It was more playful and not as serious, mostly because they really didn't see him that much. He was much more of an authoritarian, and the majority of the time that they were with Fotis, he wanted them to water ski. So they did a lot of that on the weekends, and they didn't always want to. They just did as their father told them. Over the years, Jennifer and Lauren connected really well, not just as boss and employee, but as friends. Eventually, Jennifer confided in Lauren about how she felt about Fotis. Jennifer was soft-spoken and didn't like confrontation. Fotis was the opposite. He would not fight fair and would argue a lot, and Jennifer expressed to Lauren that he was very harsh and wouldn't listen to her concerns. Instead, it would get blown out of proportion and her feelings were often overlooked. She also expressed her suspicions that Fotis may be seeing someone else.
Fast forward to January of 2017. Sadly, Jennifer's father passed away. which ended the financial support Fotis had relied on for his business. And by March of 2017, the Dulos family was still in the process of planning their move to New Canaan. But the kids had a 2-week break from school, so the family decided to take a 2-week trip, first to Aspen for a week and then to Miami. Jennifer's dad had a house in Aspen, so Fotis, Jennifer, her mother Gloria, the kids, and the nanny Lauren flew there together. The older kids would snow ski, while little Noelle, who wasn't quite old enough to keep up with everyone, would stay back with Gloria and Jennifer at the house and do arts and crafts, go shopping, and hang out together. At one point in the trip, Fotis ended up bragging to Jennifer and Lauren that he had actually bribed someone at an adult day club in the area to allow his kids to come inside with him. Now, I'm not too sure what all of this entails, but both Jennifer and Lauren said that they were disgusted by this, that it wasn't appropriate, and they were really taken aback by Fotis's behavior. Then the second week of the trip, they flew to a water ski resort in Miami. Fotis was a regular there. He had his boat docked at the ski club. He would often fly there with just the 2 older boys and water ski. They stayed at the W Hotel, and again, Fotis and the older kids, as well as Lauren, would go water skiing at the ski club, while Jennifer, her mother, and Noelle stayed behind at the hotel.
Jennifer didn't like water skiing, so it was not something she enjoyed doing with the family. She'd actually never been to the water ski club. But as Kimbyr said, Fotis was a regular. It was during this trip that Jennifer confided in Lauren in front of her mother about her suspicions that Fotis was having an affair. By this time, Jennifer had already shared her cheating concerns with her mom, who held no affection for Fotis or his business troubles after losing that financial support from Jennifer's dad. At first, Lauren admitted that she didn't think it was possible. She just couldn't imagine Fotis doing that, especially to Jennifer with 5 kids.
But Lauren had met a woman named Michelle Triconis on one of the days that she went with Fotis and the kids to the water ski club in Miami. It was interesting because as soon as Petros and Theodore saw Michelle, they ran up to her calling her Mitchie and they were hugging her. And it turned out Petros was kind of boyfriend and girlfriend with Michelle's daughter, Nicole. They were both around 11 years old. It wasn't anything serious, just a playful little relationship. But it was clear they had all met before and they knew each other well. Michelle was well acquainted with Fotis and actually came with him and the kids and Lauren out to his boat to ski and hang out together. This gave Lauren a chance to speak with Michelle. She learned that Michelle's daughter Nicole was a snow skier and Michelle was looking for homes in Colorado at the time. She really didn't find out much more, but this encounter did make her think that maybe Jennifer's suspicions could be true. Here Fotis was hanging out with this other woman so casually, and she had certainly met the older children before this trip, so it was very suspicious.
Well, a few days into the trip to Miami, Jennifer's mom, Gloria, slipped and fell by the pool at the hotel, and she actually broke her ankle. So Jennifer and Noelle flew back home with Gloria to tend to her injury, while Fotis, Lauren, and the other kids stayed back in Miami. But what was odd was that on the very last day of the trip, Fotis switched hotels to the Ritz-Carlton.
And instead of having a suite where there were 2 rooms and a kitchen and just an all-around bigger living area for all the kids, him and Lauren to share, he explained to Lauren that he was actually not going to be staying there at all. He was very vague and told Lauren she would be staying with the kids at the hotel at the Ritz while he stayed overnight with a friend somewhere else. And he did not go into details. I wonder why.
So that night, Lauren and the kids slept in the bed, on the floor and the cots, while Fotis was somewhere else. Then, the very next morning, they all met up at a different ski club in Boca Raton. And after water skiing for hours, Fotis insisted that they all take the kids to laser tag. The thing that felt off to Lauren was that she told Fotis she didn't want to actually play laser tag with the kids, but she would of course watch them. Fotis wouldn't budge. He made Lauren actually go inside the laser tag room with the kids while he and Michelle stayed out in the main area talking all alone. It was at this point that Lauren really began to think that Fotis was capable of cheating and that maybe Michelle was the other woman.
I mean, he spent the night with someone else the night before, and then he shows up with Michelle and Michelle's daughter and the kids. It's like it was his one opportunity to get away on that trip, and he took it.
Then he actually stayed in Miami and had Lauren take the 4 kids back to Connecticut by herself.
Okay, that's really suspicious.
Yes, it is. Lauren and the kids didn't get back to Connecticut until around midnight, and the kids were so tired that they went right to bed. But Lauren spoke with Jennifer about Fotis. Jennifer told Lauren that Fotis was 100% having an affair. It was no longer a suspicion because Jennifer told her that she had proof. She had looked through receipts and emails and found out he had taken a trip to Utah with Michelle and another couple.
That's sad because he's willing to risk everything he had over this other woman. And of course, Jennifer was upset, but she's also not the type to get angry. Instead, she just sat there with Lauren, trying to figure out what she was going to do. I mean, they've got this whole life together, 5 kids, 2 sets of twins, the homes. It was a lot. And again, it's so hard for me to understand why he would be willing to throw all of that away. It's actually quite shocking to me. I wondered who this other woman was. Who is Michelle? Well, it turns out Fotis met Michelle back in 2016. She shared his passion for water skiing and traveling.
Michelle was a year younger than Jennifer. She was born and raised in Venezuela, where she earned a psych degree from the University Central de Venezuela. She also trained at a therapeutic riding academy in Michigan, specializing in horse riding therapy for children with autism and other physical and mental conditions. In addition to her work as a therapeutic riding instructor, Michelle also worked as a chief publicist for a sheikh in the early 2000s in the United Arab Emirates. She also reported for ESPN in South America. Michelle moved on to work at the Cedrocaster ski resort in Ushuaia, Argentina. This prestigious ski resort attracts celebrities and politicians from all around the world. During her time at the ski resort, she met her ex-husband, Gaston Beck. Gaston is an Argentinian Olympian and ski champion. Michelle also collaborated with her sister to design fashionable waterproof covers for shoes. These covers were created to provide protection from the elements while maintaining style and functionality. They worked with Patagonia Styles, a company that specializes in selling activewear for skiers and surfers. Michelle is known as a Venezuelan socialite who had dual citizenship in Venezuela and America and owned her own TV production company in Argentina.
I mean, Michelle is a very accomplished woman. She's intelligent, hardworking, but honestly, I still think a downgrade, in my opinion, when it comes to comparing to Jennifer. I don't see what Fotis saw in this other woman. I know it's not all about looks, but to me, Michelle also looked quite older than Jennifer and kind of haggard, whereas Jennifer had a very youthful and bright look to her despite having 5 children and doing as much as she had in her life. Don't they always say that the ones guys cheat with are never as good as their partners? Because in psychology, it's known as cheating down. Most of the time, it's because it's easier. Not a lot of effort has to go into someone who they're just there to satisfy a primal urge. Men have been said to admit they aren't trying to replace their partner. They're just looking for fun. And that means the girl they cheat with doesn't have to be wifey standards. However, Michelle is a pretty accomplished woman in her own right. She's got a lot of great qualities. And guess what? Fotis wasn't actually merely looking to have a good time or just a physical relationship with Michelle. No, he wanted more. It was clear the two of them had a much deeper affair going on. Plus, Michelle knew Fotis was married, so that's just wrong. When Jennifer got proof that Fotis was cheating, she told Lauren that night not to say anything and that she would confront him about it.
It happened quickly. Jennifer didn't hesitate because the very next day when Fotis arrived back in town, Lauren was at the house and Jennifer pulled her aside and let her know she confronted Fotis and he admitted to the affair with Michelle. At this point, Jennifer confided in Lauren that she was going to try her best to be as civil as possible, that she was no longer in love with Fotis, but for the sake of the children, they were going to do what they could to make things work somehow. But just a few weeks later, things changed, and so did Jennifer's plans. Despite being married, Fotis had been dating Michelle and brazenly traveling with her for 10 days at a time each month.
So that was why he was gone so much.
Yes, and while infidelity was actually not something new to their marriage because Fotis had cheated before, this affair felt different to Jennifer, so she demanded the affair end, but Fotis refused to apologize or stop seeing Michelle. Instead, he declared that while he no longer loved Jennifer, he expected their marriage to continue. This was very hard for Jennifer, as I'm sure many, if not all of us, can imagine. But the final straw that changed what Jennifer's next moves were was when Fotis had the audacity to suggest to Jennifer that his new woman Michelle and Michelle's young daughter actually move into the home together.
It's kind of laughable to me, but he believed that the home was large enough for them to all coexist. Really? How selfish is that? It's insane that he would even suggest it. And I also want to point out, he cheated before? I'm sitting here thinking, the infidelity wasn't new to the marriage. It's like, wow, she must have been putting up with a lot all this time. He was always gone.
Jennifer was expected to just go along with the plan. Well, she was obviously not agreeable to this arrangement and decided enough was enough. She was planning on filing for divorce, but before she did, Jennifer decided to meticulously plan her escape. Understanding the risks involved, Jennifer took precautions. She enrolled the children at a school 75 minutes away in New Canaan, where she and Fotis had previously discussed moving. For months, she commuted to their new school while she devised her exit strategy. Jennifer then secretly rented a home just 5 minutes away from the new school. She furnished the secret home for months and ensured her children had everything they needed for a seamless transition.
This reminds me so much of the Lisa Harnum case. This is the most dangerous time for women when they're trying to leave a relationship. Jennifer was doing the right thing by being very cautious.
Jennifer also asked Lauren to stay on as her nanny once they moved and not assist Fotis any longer. Lauren agreed because Jennifer was her friend and she wanted to help her. She had been working for the 4 group for a few years but had no interest in it at all, so it was an easy decision for her to give her notice, and she would be quitting at the end of May. It was going to take a few months to get everything in order. So in the meanwhile, Fotis and Jennifer were coexisting in the home but sleeping in separate bedrooms, and the dynamic was very tense and uncomfortable for Lauren to be in their presence. They were arguing a lot. Jennifer's anxiety was really bad. She lost weight and she was afraid of what might happen to her if she tried to leave. There were more and more frightening scenes at the Dulos home. Lauren pulled into the driveway one day and saw Fotis chasing Jennifer with a piece of paper in his hand. Once Fotis saw Lauren and the kids, he proceeded inside as though nothing had been happening. Then things seemed to cool down. But days later, on June 3rd, a very terrified Jennifer came running inside one of the bedrooms that Lauren and Noelle were in. Once inside, Jennifer closed the door behind her. Fotis was right on her heels. He'd been chasing her and yelling and was trying to pry the door open. Things had definitely escalated. Once Fotis managed to work his way into the room, he stopped fighting when he realized that Lauren and Noelle were inside.
His demeanor would change. He was like, "Oh, Jennifer, I just want to talk," like very soft-spoken, and Lauren thought it was very weird.
Jennifer knew Fotis would not agree with her filing for divorce, so she would take the kids with Lauren and visit her mother in Manhattan. A lot, because that's where she planned to file, and she was getting things set up to escape. The plan was to be in the city when Fotis was alerted to the divorce filings. One thing Jennifer was afraid of was an open threat he made in front of Lauren, that he'd take the kids away to Greece, and Jennifer would never see them again. After he said that, Jennifer would tell Lauren all the time about how worried she was that Fotis would actually do it.
That was one of the reasons Jennifer felt she needed to sneak out of the house little by taking things out that Fotis would not notice were gone, so she could gradually create a new life for herself and her children. One afternoon in the middle of moving things, she actually got in a car accident, and she called Lauren to come help because she was so worried that Fotis would find out about the accident and then become aware that she was trying to escape. This is just one example of how scared Jennifer was. There were so many more. Fotis would argue about everything from the activities the kids were involved in to what car Jennifer drove to the overall agreement that he wanted Jennifer to go along with, but she wasn't willing to do so. On June 19th, 2017, when Fotis was at work, Jennifer packed her children's belongings and began moving out of the house with her 5 children in tow. She had successfully prepared the divorce papers with her attorney, citing she was afraid of Fotis, that he had threatened to kidnap the children and move to Greece, and that he also threatened her life if she were to leave him or interfere with his demands of full custody over their children. Jennifer also wanted full custody, and she did that in her pleadings. And the next day, when all of this was expected to go down, she lied. She told Fotis that she and the kids were going to New York to visit her father's gravesite. The real plan was that they were going to stay at a hotel called the Mandarin Oriental, a place they had never stayed before, so Fotis wouldn't be tipped off to where they were. Jennifer also hired an armed bodyguard to go with them. That's how scared this poor woman was. And once they were secure, Jennifer put the divorce filings through. I cannot even imagine, especially knowing what we know is going to happen.
So that evening, after Fotis got home and realized that many things were missing from the home and the kids weren't back yet, he began calling Lauren over and over again, demanding to know where Jennifer and the kids were. He even accused Lauren of kidnapping the children. He was angry. He yelled at Lauren and told her the only reason she was there was because Jennifer paid off all her student loans, which was an absolute lie. But it didn't matter. He continued yelling on the phone in front of the kids, and he threatened to call the police, which he did. During the 911 call, Fotis expressed his supposed growing concern for the safety of his wife and children. Fotis mentioned that Jennifer was driving a black Range Rover and that their nanny was accompanying them.
We have the recording of this 911 call, and we're going to play it for you.
I'm worried about my wife and kids because they left to go to New York, and I haven't been able to get in touch with them.
Okay, they were going to New York. What's the license plate on the car?
Excuse me?
What's the license plate on the car?
I have to get them for you.
Okay, who's the car registered to?
It's registered to my wife's name, Jennifer Dulos.
Spell the last name for me.
Dulos, D-U-L-O-S.
Jennifer, G-A-E-N-N-I-F-E-R?
Yes.
Her date of birth?
It's September 27, 1968.
Okay, hold on. What kind of car were they driving?
It was a Range Rover.
It was a Range Rover?
Yep.
Hold on, let's see. Black, 2016 black Land Rover Range Rover?
Yep.
Okay, when were they supposed to be there?
They were supposed to be there.
Hello?
I can give you the address as well of the apartment.
Okay.
But the landline is not answering. They're not answering their cell phones.
Okay.
406.
Okay, you keep breaking up, sir. I need you to hold the phone to your face because I keep hearing you really far away.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just nervous.
Okay, and who's the other person that's with your wife?
And it's the babysitter. Her name is Lauren.
Lauren?
Lauren.
Do you know her last name?
Yes, Almeida.
You said there were kids with them or not?
They're my 5 kids, yes.
How many kids? 2?
5.
5 kids?
Yep.
Okay, and how long ago did they leave Connecticut?
They left Connecticut, I believe, around, I want to say 4:30.
Yeah, PM?
Excuse me?
PM?
PM, yes.
Okay. And they were supposed to be in New York tonight?
Yeah, they're supposed to be in New York, but nobody's... I've been texting, and I see that the texts are being delivered, but nobody's responding to me.
Okay. So they're supposed to... Do you have... Okay, so I'll send an officer over to speak with you. But do you have, like, the Find Your iPhone app or anything like that?
What's that?
Okay. Do you have iPhones?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. What's your name?
It's Fotis, F-O-T-I-S.
Okay.
Last name is Dulos, D-U-L-O-S.
Okay, I'll send an officer over to speak with you, okay? You're at 4 Jefferson Crossing?
Yes.
Okay.
What time do you think he'll be here?
He should be there shortly. He's not too far, okay?
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Yep.
He knows they're not in danger. This is all about him not getting his way. He knows that she wasn't okay with his relationship with Michelle, and he had to have known this was coming. The reason no one was responding to his text messages and his calls is because he didn't want to. The information he provided was relayed to the responding officer, who arrived shortly thereafter at 4 Jefferson Crossing. There, Fotis showed the officer how Jennifer had packed many of her and the children's belongings, including the bathroom scale. And I am laughing. This is not a funny situation at all, but it's funny to me that he thought that was significant. He's like, look, she took the scale. She means business.
But Fotis was completely unaware of Jennifer's decision to leave him at that time. The very next day after making that 911 call, Fotis was served with divorce papers, initiating the custody battle. Both Jennifer and Fotis sought full custody after claiming that the other was unfit. Fotis alleged that Jennifer was depressed and under psychiatric care and had a distant relationship with the children, portraying himself as the primary caregiver.
Which was a lie, and Jennifer countered this absurd claim by accusing him of verbal and emotional abuse, stating that both she and the children feared him. She expressed fear for her life, telling the court that Fotis had intense revenge fantasies against people who crossed him. Jennifer further stated in her court filings that Fotis expected to exhibit complete control over her and the children, and described him as dangerous and ruthless when he felt wronged. Fotis, in response, claimed to the court that Jennifer threatened to have the mafia break his legs, and these accusations just went back and forth. Jennifer described Fotis' behavior as irrational and unsafe, alleging that he bullied and threatened her throughout their marriage. She claimed that he went back and forth between declaring the marriage over and then vowing to prevent her from divorcing him. Jennifer also expressed concern that Fotis might use his gun to harm her or the children. Yes, the children were the ones that actually informed Jennifer that their father had purchased a firearm during this time. It was a 9mm Glock 19, and that's scary. Jennifer expressed concerns about the legality of this possession, stating that he did not have a permit and it was believed to be unregistered. Fotis had purchased this gun in Florida and he brought it back to Connecticut. He said that the weapon was solely for protection and that he kept it in a secure lockbox. But according to Jennifer, she was afraid of Fotis, saying, quote, "I'm afraid of my husband. He's dangerous and ruthless when he believes that he's been wronged. During the course of our marriage, he told me about sickening revenge fantasies and plans to cause physical harm to others who have wronged him," end quote. However, following Jennifer's decision to file for divorce, Fotis voluntarily turned the gun he had bought over to the police.
Both parties accused each other of parental alienation, making disparaging remarks about each other in front of the children, which the court views as a form of emotional abuse and child abuse, and Fotis denied having any plans to flee with the children to Greece. He mentioned that none of the children possessed Greek passports, which ruled out the possibility of leaving the country without legal documentation. However, Fotis had applied for Greek citizenship for the children, which was pending at the time of this divorce. And over the next week, he found out about the relocation to New Canaan. He became even more livid.
Yeah, Jennifer and the kids stayed in that hotel for about a week, and then they moved to their rental home. This was a mansion. It had 6 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a big backyard with a pool, just a gorgeous home. It was over 15,000 square feet and only a 5-minute drive from the kids' new school at New Canaan Country Day School, but over an hour and a half away from Fotis at 4 Jefferson Crossing. And I'm sure it made Fotis even more livid because Jennifer was self-sufficient. She didn't need him, but he had always needed or even used her and her family to support his business and his dreams, all the while cheating and then finally attempting to move his mistress into the home that Jennifer's dad essentially paid for. It's just sick. And this was just the beginning of the legal battles. And of course, it reminds me a lot of the Dan Markel and Wendy Adelson divorce, but maybe worse in some ways.
The couple were constantly in court, and when Lauren would testify on Jennifer's behalf, she was in favor of Jennifer getting sole custody of the children. Fotis would cause a scene. He tried to intimidate Lauren by going up to her and accusing her of kidnapping his kids, amongst other things. But as soon as someone would come up nearby, like his lawyer, for example, he would speak nicely and kindly to Lauren, acting as if he just wanted the best for the kids. In one of the court hearings, Jennifer admitted to the court that she had been seeing a psychologist because she was dealing with depression and stress. During her deposition, Jennifer revealed that she had been prescribed antidepressant medications, which she had been taking to help manage her symptoms. She stated that her father's illness and death in 2017 had significantly impacted her emotional state and contributed to her ongoing feelings of sadness and hopelessness. Fotis argued she had driven the car under the influence of these drugs and caused her to get into a car accident.
I thought it's interesting how he changes like a chameleon. When he's in front of someone else, he's like, "Oh, I just care about the children." He was also trying to make it look like she was endangering their kids. Right. Jennifer did acknowledge that she had driven her SUV while under the influence of these medications. However, she clarified that this was done alone. She was not in the vehicle with the children at the time of the accident, and no one was injured. Eventually, the court set initial custody parameters for Jennifer and Fotis, granting them joint custody. However, the judge also imposed certain conditions on Jennifer and Fotis. They were prohibited from leaving the state with the children without obtaining court approval, and from exposing their children to romantic partners and trips on private planes. Additionally, they were required to turn over their passports to the court. Lauren drove the kids to Fort Jefferson Crossing a few times when it was Fotis' turn to visit with them, but she quickly put an end to carrying out this task because in September of 2017, Fotis came up to her and again started yelling at her, getting in her face, accusing Lauren of being a kidnapper and berating her. He even told her that he would make sure she never saw his kids again. And he was doing all this in front of the children. And this is the nanny. So I can only imagine how he treated Jennifer. So Lauren, of course, told Jennifer she no longer wanted to be in Fotis' presence.
Despite these initial custody parameters, there were instances where Jennifer raised concerns regarding Fotis' compliance with the court order. In January and March of 2018, Jennifer informed the court that Fotis was disregarding the restrictions imposed on him. She alleged that Fotis was exposing the children to Michelle Triconis, his girlfriend, despite the court order barring him from doing so.
The court eventually appointed a guardian ad litem for the children to safeguard their interests. My mom was actually a guardian ad litem when I was growing up, and it's quite the undertaking, but it is for a good cause. It's to protect children. Both Jennifer and Fotis were ordered to undergo complete psychiatric testing to determine their fitness as parents. The court sealed those documents because they involve minors. However, Fotis' failure to comply with court orders led to a ruling that a court-paid third-party monitor must supervise all of the visitation between Fotis and the children until further order. So, a legal chaperone. This decision came after the court discovered that Fotis was pressuring the children to lie during their interviews, urging them to say that they wanted to live with him. And he also pressured them to lie to their mother about visitation rule violations. In a written court order, the judge stated that Fotis had lost all credibility to tell the truth, whether under oath or not. So whenever his mouth was moving, lies were coming out. And at one point, Fotis told the guardian ad litem that he thought it was reasonable for Jennifer, their children, plus Michelle and her daughter to all live together under the same roof. He would say this to so many people. It's because he didn't want to lose the house. He wanted to live in this luxurious lifestyle and just figured, you know what? I can just get my cake and eat it too. His reasoning, he explained once again, was that the house was 15,000 square feet. And he didn't understand why Jennifer wasn't just jumping at this offer. He saw her refusal to accept this offer and keep their family intact as selfish and outrageous. He thinks she's being selfish, which I just think is insane. No, I'll be like, no, thank you. It's like he's so used to getting what he wants, he can't imagine in his narcissistic mind anyone would say no to him.
In addition to Fotis' numerous court losses, he faced significant financial strains. He lost the funds from Jennifer's father, then defaulted on his mortgage payments, which the Farbers had personally guaranteed. Jennifer's mother, Gloria Farber, had to step in and begin making the payments, eventually suing Fotis and initiating foreclosure proceedings on the family home in Farmington, which Fotis was now sharing with his mistress.
Which is why he wanted them all to live together so they wouldn't take away the house. And I'm sure this was not going to go over well with Fotis losing his entire empire and it just crumbling to the ground.
Right, and Fotis lost control over his wife and children and access to a limited funding from Jennifer's wealthy parents. This meant he could no longer afford private jets to Aspen and Greece at a moment's notice. Fotis believed that Jennifer's actions toward his girlfriend Michelle were cruel, that now Michelle had to deal with a strain in her relationship with Fotis because of the constant arguments over Jennifer, with a divorce and custody battle causing ongoing tension between them.
Oh, poor Michelle. It's like, cry me a river. She knew what she was getting involved with when she chose to date a married man. But she probably didn't realize Fotis wasn't a self-made man. He was a man accustomed to getting others to bend at the knee. He was used to winning, and now he suddenly found himself losing. He'd sulk to the judge in court, and one time he said, quote, "Your Honor, I'm so sorry, but why do I always get the raw end of the stick? I really want to see my children. I spent 2% of the time with them. I'm not Charles Manson," end quote. That definitely didn't age well. Oh. Fotis was juggling the financial burden of paying 3 divorce attorneys, a guardian ad litem $175,000, a psychiatrist who prepared a custody report $40,000, and a court-ordered supervisor $150 an hour for monitored visits, with costs shared with Jennifer. But Jennifer was able to afford it, and he wasn't.
At one point, the judge mandated Fotis undergo family systems therapy until he, quote, understood the ramifications of the improper request that he made of the children to lie on his behalf, end quote.
Now, I'm sure this wasn't fun for anyone. Yet in March of 2019, the court changed its ruling and permitted Fotis to visit with his children every other weekend at his Farmington home. During this period, he was allowed to spend 7 hours a day with the children in Fairfield County and an additional 6 hours on Saturdays and Sundays. However, the judge placed restrictions on these visits. Fotis was not allowed to discuss his pending divorce case with the children, and he was also prohibited from engaging in any form of contact with the children outside of the presence of the designated supervisor. Moreover, Fotis was barred from speaking to his children privately without the supervision of a court representative. Additionally, the judge prohibited Fotis from communicating with the children in Greek to circumvent the supervisor's monitoring. So he was trying to get around it by speaking in another language.
In addition, court filings regarding the divorce and custody case, Jennifer mentioned several concerning incidents involving her estranged husband. According to Jennifer, the children expressed their concerns regarding water skiing and did not want to continue practicing at high levels. They voiced their exhaustion both physically and emotionally and pleaded for Jennifer to intervene. Jennifer mentioned that the children were afraid of disobeying their father, fearing retaliation.
Right. And that had been going on for a while. And Jennifer stated that if the children did complain about water skiing, Fotis would resort to bullying tactics. Jennifer mentioned an incident where one of her sons was too tired to participate, and Fotis threw his ski against the wall and it broke. Jennifer also mentioned that when the children relocated to New Canaan, she enrolled one of her sons in ice hockey. However, Fotis expressed dissatisfaction, claiming the son was miserable due to the constant shots fired at him during practice sessions. On the other hand, Fotis argued that he was a highly supportive father and that the children appreciated and enjoyed the competitive success the training brought to them. I briefly mentioned this, but to make the custody and divorce case between Jennifer and Fotis 10 times harder, Jennifer's mother, Gloria, decided to file a lawsuit against her now estranged son-in-law. According to Gloria, her late husband, Hillard, had lent Fotis $2.5 million to purchase properties and build homes with his company, Four Group. However, Gloria alleged that after Hillard passed away, Fotis just stopped making payments on those loans. Fotis, on the other hand, refuted the lawsuit's allegations, claiming the funds given to him by Hillard were not meant to be repaid, that they were a gift. Yeah, right. I don't believe that for a minute. It was one thing after another with this divorce that started in 2017 and was still going on in 2019.
Despite the stressful nature of the court hearings, Jennifer prioritized ensuring that her children had a life as normal as possible. They were settled in New Canaan and focused on looking forward to the future that included a new home. Eventually, she moved the kids to 69 Wells Lane.
Which I know I keep saying this, which is another mansion in my opinion. It's 6 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms. I don't even know how you keep it clean. It was just a gorgeous home. One that most of us will never be close to ever even walking into. I don't think it's necessary to have a home this big, but it is amazing. Built-in closets, modern designs, room for everyone to have their own rooms, a nice big backyard, no pool in this one, but still very close to the school. And life wasn't half bad for the Dulos children. They were living in the lap of luxury, but of course, the poor children were caught up in the middle.
And at this point, the nanny Lauren was still working a pretty full schedule. She'd been there Monday through Thursday, then have Friday and Saturday off, but be back with Jennifer and the kids on Sundays. Jennifer also enlisted the help of a housekeeper who would come a couple times during the week to help clean this huge house. The custody agreement changed again at this point as well. With the evidence racking up against Fotis, he was now only allowed to have his supervised visits on Wednesdays, and it was limited to just a few hours, and the visits had to be agreed upon with the court-ordered supervisor and Jennifer. And all this had to be done online through a court system because Fotis was no longer permitted to call or text Jennifer. When Fotis made his way to New Canaan for his supervised visits, he'd often take the children to a local park. They would engage in various activities such as riding bikes, playing ball, and having picnics. Sometimes, Fotis would even take the children into town for dinner and ice cream before Jennifer picked them up. However, Jennifer would always complain about Fotis being late during his visits. Whenever he arrived, he would blame the traffic for his delay. Plus, Fotis would change his plans the very last minute, which Jennifer disliked, and it made her look like the bad guy to their 5 children.
Let's jump to May 21st, 2019. Fotis had a scheduled visit with his children the next day on his designated Wednesday, but the day before on Tuesday, Jennifer was having a basketball hoop installed for the boys. It was a housewarming gift from their grandmother, Jennifer's mom, Gloria. Jennifer was so proud of the way it turned out, she couldn't wait to show Lauren. Even though the garage was a mess from Jennifer's perspective, she took Lauren through the mudroom, out to the garage, and then outside to see it, mentioning what a mess the garage was. It was a 3-car garage. Jennifer had 2 vehicles, a Suburban and a Range Rover. She would usually pile all the kids into the Suburban, which had WeatherTech lining in the back where they could just throw all their sports gear, and she'd park it to the far left of the garage opening. The middle was reserved for her Range Rover, which was typically driven by her when she was going somewhere by herself. And the right section of the garage was usually a little bit messy because it was reserved for shelves with all the kids' sports equipment on it. Lauren was the type of nanny who intuitively knew when to take care of something. So when Jennifer mentioned that the garage was messy, Lauren stopped what she was doing and devoted her time to tidying up the 3rd bay of the garage where all the kids' stuff was. The very next day was Wednesday, the 22nd of May, 2019, and Fotis was coming for his visit with the kids. Lauren arrived at the 69 Wells Lane house at noon. She tidied up, she got the house and kids' stuff ready, and got them to school and brought them back to get ready for their dad. Now, despite being expected at 4:30 p.m., Fotis arrived half an hour early at 4 o'clock. And this was very unusual. He was always late for everything, so it was unexpected, and it caused Jennifer to panic. The reason was she had a restraining order against Fotis, and the court-ordered supervisor wasn't there yet. So Jennifer quickly asked Lauren to help her lock all the doors. This just shows you how scared she was of this man.
The rule was that Fotis was to wait in his car at the bottom of the driveway until the supervisor arrived. Then he and the supervisor would come up the driveway to the garage to retrieve the kids together. But that day, Fotis drove his car all the way up the driveway toward the garage doors. Jennifer decided to go to the garage and let him know he needed to head back down to the bottom of the driveway. He said he was just confused and moved his car back to wait.
Meanwhile, Lauren let Jennifer know that she did not want to be around Fotis at all. She left with Constantine to grab some lunch in town. He had a horseback riding lesson that day, so I believe he was not going to be with Fotis, and Petros wasn't either, because Petros had lacrosse that day as well. This goes to show how much Lauren disliked this man as well, because she did not want to be around him.
Once the supervisor arrived, the kids and Fotis left for the activity Fotis had planned. It was at Grace Farms, an area with an underground basketball court that Fotis sometimes rented out when he had the children.
And at some point, Lauren texted Jennifer to make sure that Fotis had left before she came back, just letting her know that Constantine was all done with horseback riding. Jennifer texted back that Fotis was still there. And we're going to be putting these texts on the screen if you are watching. Jennifer said, "I know you were going to do Noelle's braids. Petros is picked up by 8:30. I think he should wrap it up." She was referring to Fotis. And then she ended that thread with, "I'll let you know when he goes." Lauren responded with okay and asked Jennifer if she needed her to pick Petros up. And in the meanwhile, Lauren would just go get some gas, waste some time, or go get Dunkin' Donuts with Constantine because she did not want to be there when Fotis was there. But soon Jennifer let her know that Fotis left so Lauren could bring Constantine back. So she did. By the time Lauren got back, Fotis, the kids, and the supervisor had returned within the hour that they had left because apparently his picnic location at Grace Farms was closed. So he asked Jennifer if he could have the picnic in her backyard. She did agree with strict instructions that he could not enter her home. Jennifer was deathly afraid of Fotis. Even with a court monitor, she was terrified. Fotis had brought with him 5 chocolate bunnies for each of his children. It was Greek Easter at the time, known as Pashka, and the children were excited to receive their treats from their father. In addition to bringing the chocolate bunnies, Fotis had also brought along a salad and a cake for dessert. He asked Jennifer if she could please place these items in the fridge for him, so Jennifer did agree.
There was something else that was strange about this visit. For the first time since knowing Fotis, Jennifer and the children noticed that he had shaved off all his hair, and that stood out to them. But the kids just laughed and acted playful about it as he took turns rubbing his head in the driveway when they saw him for the first time that day.
That is odd, and it's going to be significant. When Lauren was informed that Fotis was coming back, she and Jennifer went around the house and made sure every window was closed, all the doors were locked, even the mudroom door that led from the garage inside. They locked everything, and they prepared all the food and the utensils and everything outside. That way, there would be no reason for anyone to come inside, but especially Fotis. So they ate outside, they played the game Would You Rather, and they all went to play basketball in the newly installed hoop. Around 7:30 p.m., Jennifer called out to the children to say goodbye to their father, come inside, finish their homework, and shower. The children hugged Fotis goodbye, and at 7:41 p.m., he walked down the driveway to his car. Little did anyone know, their lives were about to change very soon.
The next day, on May 23rd, things were normal. Lauren picked up the kids from school, took them to do their activities, helped with dinner, and then tidied up the house because the housekeeper wasn't there that day. Lauren went down to the basement and got a 12-pack of paper towels, unloaded them in the pantry and in the kitchen because she ran out the night after cleaning up after the kids.
I can imagine them going through a lot of cleaning supplies like that.
Yep, so she got done doing all of that, then spoke to Jennifer about their plans for the next day on Friday. Recall that Lauren typically has Friday and Saturdays off unless there's something pressing that Jennifer may need extra help with. Well, Friday, May 24th was one of those exceptions. Jennifer had a doctor's appointment at 11 a.m. in New York. It's about an hour drive away where they were living in Connecticut, so they'd go there often to visit Gloria or for appointments like this. Since Jennifer had to be in the city, she decided to schedule the kids an orthodontist appointment as well. They had a half day at school that Friday, so Jennifer let Lauren know that she would drive the Range Rover to New York early Friday morning to go to her appointment. The Suburban was really hard to park in the city, and Lauren would grab the kids from school around noon, then drive them to the city, and they'd all meet up at Gloria's house before the kids' appointment. That Thursday night, Lauren leaves at 9 p.m. and the next morning at 7:14 a.m., Jennifer texts her, letting her know that she took Instagram off the iPad so Petros could use it for the car ride, and that his iPad was in the bathroom.
So to clarify, she usually drove the Range Rover when she was alone. She would use the Suburban with the kids, but in this instance, it's really hard to park that big car in New York City. So what they do is they shuttle the kids, they go to Gloria's as like a meeting point, and then they go to their appointment. So that's what they were doing. And with the iPad situation, we're just mentioning this because we do want to show you text messages. Petros had put Instagram on one of the iPads without permission. So he got in trouble for this. So Jennifer took the iPad away and removed Instagram. The kids would use their iPads on these long car rides.
Jennifer also reminded Lauren that Petros needed to bring home his lacrosse stick. Before 11 a.m., Lauren stopped at Subway to pick up lunch for the kids. She planned to drop the food off at 69 Wells and go grab the kids, then bring them back to eat before hitting the road to the city. She arrived at the home around 11 or so and entered like she always did through the middle garage bay using the keypad.
As soon as she entered, she noticed right away that the Range Rover was still parked in the garage, but the Suburban was gone. And she was confused because she knew Jennifer was alone and usually drove the Range Rover. And the kids were supposed to be driven in the Suburban to the city, but now only the Range Rover was there. So it seemed very odd. But she proceeded inside, put her stuff down in the mudroom cubbies, and made her way into the kitchen to set up the subs for the kids before heading out to get them. And that's when Lauren noticed a couple more things that made her pause. Jennifer's purse was on the floor between the mudroom and the kitchen. Now, this is a bigger designer purse, so it was a little bit surprising that Jennifer would just put it on the floor that way, but Lauren figured maybe she was in a hurry and she grabbed a smaller purse or just her phone and wallet that morning. But it was the next thing she noticed that really stood out. Every morning, without fail, Jennifer ate a granola bar with a cup of tea, and Lauren saw that the cup of tea was still full, with a granola bar just sitting there on the kitchen counter. And again, Lauren figured Jennifer must have been in a rush, but it was strange. I sometimes wonder if I have any characteristics or routines that would make you think that something was odd, like if I did something in a different way. But I do kind of bring the same purse, but I also change my purses out. So I don't know if you would notice. But if I did leave my phone at home, like you'd probably be like, why does she leave that there? I think that would be a concern. But when Lauren saw Jennifer's uneaten breakfast, she cleaned up the cup of tea, put the granola bar away, and moved on to the next task, putting a new paper towel roll in the holder on the counter since the one that was there had been used up. But when she went to go grab a new roll, she noticed that there were only 2 out of the dozen rolls that she brought up from the basement the night before. That was very odd. It didn't make sense, but in these moments, we just try to make sense of things. So she figured maybe the kids spilled something or made a really big mess and they had to use a lot of paper towels, but that is a lot to go through.
And by this time, Lauren had to leave to get the kids from school.
She was only picking up 4 of the kids because Christiane didn't need to go to the dentist. So Jennifer was allowing her to go home with a friend and get picked up later when they all returned from the city.
Right, and Lauren got to school around 12:30 and brought the 4 kids back to the house to eat before heading off to New York. And was her habit, Lauren texted Jennifer at 12:43 p.m. to inform her that the kids were having lunch and let her know that Noelle couldn't find her iPod and wanted to know if she was okay using the iPad for the ride. She was surprised not to receive a reply. Jennifer usually responded promptly, and Lauren sensed that something was amiss. Having worked for Jennifer since 2012, Lauren knew that she was very involved and attentive as a mother. But they were in a rush to get on the road, so Lauren proceeded to gather up the kids and get them into the car. At that point, Lauren once again texted Jennifer, this time letting her know that they were leaving now and her ETA was 2:30 p.m. to arrive at Gloria's. The next time she tries to make contact with Jennifer is when they pull up to Gloria's exactly at 2:30 p.m. Jennifer still hadn't responded to any of Lauren's previous texts.
But Lauren figured she must just be at her appointment or driving. So she texted Jennifer with just got to Gloria's. And after a little while, Lauren became concerned because she was supposed to merely meet Jennifer at Gloria's to get the kids and get them together and then go to their orthodontist appointment. But Lauren wasn't planning on going to that appointment. So she texted Jennifer again at 3:58, asking Jennifer if they were meeting at the dentist. She still got no response. And at this point, Lauren called Jennifer. It's 4 p.m. and Jennifer hadn't made it to Gloria's yet. And it had been a while with Jennifer out of reach, which was not typical. It had been 3 hours without Jennifer responding to Lauren on a day that they had plans to meet for an appointment for the kids. And Jennifer wouldn't just forget or intentionally ignore Lauren. So it was very odd.
Lauren decided to go get a taxi and get into the city to bring the kids to their appointment, but she did not have a good feeling in her gut at this point. She was really worried, especially when Jennifer wasn't waiting for them when they arrived.
Lauren actually started having a really bad gut feeling, like you said, when she tried calling Jennifer and she would not get an answer. Her stomach sank because she had never ignored anyone's calls like this. She was really hoping that Jennifer had just somehow gotten caught up in a meeting and that she would meet them at the orthodontist. But when she wasn't there, Lauren started to freak out. However, she had 4 kids with her and she didn't want to show them that she was concerned. So she acted like everything was normal. She got them into their appointments and then she walked outside and started frantically calling around to everyone who may have heard from Jennifer that day, including Jennifer's best friend, Carrie, who started calling other close friends trying to locate Jennifer. Meanwhile, the kids are now done with their appointment and Lauren got them back to Gloria's and then she took the iPad that they had brought with them. And that's when she noticed that Jennifer's calendar was synced to this iPad. So Lauren was able to find out the information about where one of Jennifer's medical appointments were that day, and she went to that location. All Lauren asked them was, did Jennifer make it to that appointment? And the answer was no. And Lauren was quite a wreck at this point and called her mother, who had to calm her down, telling her to start calling hospitals because maybe Jennifer had been in an accident. And we know it has happened before. She's called Lauren saying, I got into an accident. So that was plausible. But that wasn't what happened here. Finally, Lauren made her way back to Gloria's. And at this point, a close friend of Jennifer's, Laurel Watts, had arrived to help Lauren. And she decided to call the New Canaan police.
Laurel informed the police that Jennifer Dulos, a mother of 5, was missing and that this behavior was extremely out of Jennifer's character. Laurel also told them that Jennifer was in the middle of a very contentious divorce with her husband, Fotis Dulos, as well as a custody battle, and they had reason to believe that Jennifer may be in danger. Since they had heard he had recently bought a gun and threatened to kill Jennifer rather than let her win in court, the police were on it right away. Officers were sent out to Jennifer's home at 69 Wells to initiate the search for any signs of her and conduct a welfare check.
We do have the body cam footage from the officers. It was around evening time when they arrived. The house was not well lit from the driveway, so it was very dim when they pulled up. As they got closer, it was easier to see the house, and still no lights looked on inside.
Then they went up to the front door and knocked, but no one answered. So both officers walked around the residence checking to see if they could see anyone inside through the windows, but saw nothing. They had already been given permission to enter the home and a garage code was given to them. They used it to enter Jennifer's 3-car garage. The middle bay door opened up and they saw Jennifer's black Range Rover parked inside just like Lauren saw hours earlier. Both the right and left garage bays were empty. They contacted dispatch in regard to the vehicle since it had New York plate on it. They wanted to confirm who it belonged to. Meanwhile, they looked around the car and that's when they noticed what appeared to be a red blood-like substance on the front of the Range Rover on the grill area.
It's actually pretty easy to see since the grill is silver and the blood really contrasted against it. After this, they definitely had reasons to go inside this home, and that's what they did. They made their way into the mudroom where the kids kept things like their backpacks and shoes and cubbies against the wall. Now, if you are watching and you look closely right here, you can see a black bag on the floor right where Lauren mentioned seeing it between the mudroom and the kitchen. That's Jennifer's purse. As the officers continued through the home, the kitchen is tidy. There's no signs of a struggle or anything there. I mean, this whole house is minimalistic and tidy. And they continued walking through it, looking in rooms on the first floor, like the dining room, a bathroom. And one officer stops and takes a photo of a picture of the kids that's hanging on the wall. Then they proceed through the living room and into what appears to be somewhat of an office area, which is a little more messy. It looks more used and lived in, but still nothing out of the ordinary and still no sign of Jennifer. They clear every room on the first floor, now heading into a sitting room with a big piano, as well as a couple coat closets. They make their way up the stairs to what looks like the primary bedroom. They go through a large closet, checking everywhere that someone could be hiding, under the beds, in cabinets, throughout the main bathroom, and there's just no one there.
Then they look through the next room, which looks like a kid's bedroom and bathroom. Again, checking under the bed and in the closets, making their way to the next room, which is another kid's room. It has a set of bunk beds in it. They keep going. Another bedroom and bathroom are on that floor. This one had a bunch of ribbons from awards like trophies. Still, there's nothing there. They keep going into yet another room that looks like it could be an older boy's room with a football helmet on the desk. They check everywhere, including the bathroom, and there's still nothing out of the ordinary or anyone inside the home. But there's still another floor to this house, so they make their way up to the next set of stairs, which lead to a more messy area. It looks like maybe some organizing had been going on. There are clear plastic bins on the floor with items scattered around. They make their way through and it appears that it's more of a storage area and sitting room, followed by another older boy's bedroom with a bunch of hockey pictures on the desk, but still no Jennifer. At this point, they decide to go back downstairs because there's actually a basement below ground. So they go down those stairs and find an unfinished basement.
This basement is huge. It's got mostly sports equipment, furniture, boxes, miscellaneous things, but no Jennifer. But since they saw that blood on the Range Rover, they go back to the garage. To them, it's pretty significant that there's blood present on a scene where a mother is missing. Before they get into the garage, they examine Jennifer's purse more extensively this time, opening it up and looking through the items for clues, since it seemed out of place to them. And inside, they find a notepad with handwriting on it. There's also a folded jacket inside and keys to a Chevy vehicle, which we know belongs to the Suburban, which was not in the garage. They decide to hold on to these keys and bring them back to the station, but they don't see anything else of importance here. But back in the garage, they turn on all the lights and they begin to really take a good look at that car. They see more blood on the left side near the underside of the vehicle. The driver's side front tire, the wheel well, and the back left bumper all had blood on it at this point. But there's no deer hair or anything, so they think it's odd. At first, they thought maybe someone had hit an animal, but it almost looked like a cleanup had happened because of the way it was smeared. And since the car's black, maybe the person cleaning up, who was most likely in a rush, didn't notice that some of it was left behind. It's really hard to see, but it's definitely there. The driver's side looked like it had remnants of rag particles, like little pieces of fiber where someone used a rag or a paper towel to clean. And we know that there were a lot of paper towels missing in that home. The officers took pictures of any suspected blood.
Not too long after this, as the officers who conducted the welfare check were leaving, other officers in the area spotted Jennifer's black Chevy Suburban SUV on Lantham Road, which borders Waveney Park, a 300-acre community park with walking trails, a dog park, swimming pool, playing fields, and a huge area called a mulch pile where wood and leaves were collected for the city to be turned into mulch. This park is about a 9-minute drive under 4 miles away from Jennifer's home. The Suburban was parked in the southbound lane heading toward Merritt Parkway. So, in a spot where you would kind of have to be coming out of the park road heading back into town. It was parked in one of those little cutouts on the side of the road, which are used to park when you want to take a hiking trail. The captain asked 2 officers who had searched Jennifer's home and had that Chevy key to come to the scene. Officers began to walk a trail in that area parallel to Merritt Parkway, looking for any signs of Jennifer. They even brought a canine out to where the car was to see if they could track Jennifer's scent, but they didn't find anything around the area of the car. But when looking at the exterior, it was noted that there were some red droplets on the running board of the SUV. That's when Major Crime Scene Unit was called in to collect and preserve potential evidence. The crime scene investigators used the key to get inside. They had no idea what they would stumble upon, but Jennifer was not inside. The tailgate had been backed up against a tree and the gear lever was stuck in reverse. They saw what looked like a red blood-like substance that seemed to be splattered across the passenger seat and smeared as though there had been an attempt to clean up. At this point, the crime unit decided to have the vehicle towed back to the crime lab for full examination.
Meanwhile, officers were combing through the vast green spaces in search of the missing woman. Officers conducted a thorough investigation by questioning anyone they came across in this park, including mothers walking with babies, people walking their dogs, and joggers. However, no one reported having seen Jennifer or anything unusual. The lack of security cameras in this park hindered the police's ability to obtain any footage, so they sent out helicopters to fly overhead and divers to check the bodies of water within the park. But it was getting later in the evening now, and they wouldn't have much daylight left. So Sergeant Ventresca and Detective John Kimbyr from the state's Major Crime Squad were sent to 69 Wells Lane to canvass the neighborhood, asking residents if they saw anything unusual and to obtain any ring camera footage from homes in the area.
That evening, while all of this was going on, Fotis called Lauren, but she was too afraid to answer, so she called the police. The police then called Fotis at around 8 p.m. to inform him that Jennifer was missing. He told the officers that he had not seen or spoken to his wife or children the entire day. The officers noticed Fotis' lack of concern. He didn't seem worried at all, and that seemed strange. They asked him if he would visit the police station the following day for a formal interview, and Fotis agreed. And because Lauren had the kids, the police instructed Lauren to text Fotis. He called Lauren back, and it was around 8:40 p.m., and they spoke, but to Lauren's surprise, he didn't even inquire about Jennifer or her whereabouts. He skipped right to telling her that he had a planned supervised visit with the kids the next day on Saturday for Memorial Day weekend, and she needed to make sure the kids would be available for him and even instructed Lauren to set an alarm early to ensure they weren't late. Lauren thought this was odd. In a somewhat strange comment, he remarked that the children would need him now. At this point, Jennifer had only been missing a few hours. So why would the children suddenly need him? It just felt off.
I mean, yeah, I think that would be the first thing someone who cared about Jennifer would inquire about. Like, where is she? What is going on? But Fotis was way more concerned with being able to get his kids. Lauren had 4 of them with her, and Christiane was at a friend's spending the night. But they were planning to drop her off to Gloria's the next day so that all the kids would be together. Lauren, Laurel, and Gloria all suspected Fotis had something to do with Jennifer's sudden disappearance, and they weren't even privy to the evidence found in her home and car, but they just had a really bad feeling.
Later that night at 9:49 p.m., Lauren texted Fotis an update saying, "Hello, no update so far. Laurel is at the police station right now, keeping me updated, but they don't have anything yet. They looked around the house, but it all seemed fine. I'm trying to get the kids to get some sleep. Fotis texted back, okay, thank you, and then added, please call me first thing in the morning. Lauren said, yes, I will. If I hear anything tonight, I'll let you know. Fotis texted back saying, okay.
He texted again hours later around 11:30 p.m. saying that he was still up and he wanted to know if she had any news. And Lauren said, no news. They're still searching though. Got kids to sleep. And then Fotis asked, thank you. Are they okay? Are they worried? And Lauren texted back, they're doing okay. They're worried, but I'm trying to just keep them updated as much as I can to keep them at ease. I'm happy they got to bed. And Fotis said, okay, I will see you guys tomorrow. And Lauren said, okay, night. The following day, Fotis, who typically woke up early, texted Lauren at 5:39 a.m. saying, good morning, Lauren. Any news? And Lauren texted back, called them at 2:30 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. and no news. They just told me they're still searching. Fotis said he spoke to an officer at 1 a.m. as well. The next morning on Saturday at 10 a.m., Fotis texted Lauren, good morning, Lauren. I'm driving down to New Canaan. He then sent another text saying he spoke to an officer and he had no update and he wanted to know how the children were. And Lauren texted, the children are doing well. They just ate breakfast. Fotis then texted, are you guys driving to New Canaan? But Lauren didn't respond because the truth is, everyone close to Jennifer thought, of all people, Fotis would be the one responsible for Jennifer's disappearance, and she had no plans to turn the children over to him.
That day when Fotis got to New Canaan and realized he wasn't getting his kids from Lauren, he arrived at the police department as promised. But he was not there to discuss his missing estranged wife. Instead, he brought his attorney Pie Tranker, and he informed the police Fotis would not be answering any questions.
That's kind of suspicious. I mean, wouldn't you want to provide as much information as possible?
Like we always say, it's good to lawyer up, right? No matter what. But on the other hand, the spouse and even former partners are the first ones suspected when someone close to them goes missing. Maybe he just knew that they'd be laser focused on him and he was merely being proactive.
I mean, yes, it's definitely okay to have a lawyer present. He wasn't just being proactive. He was actively showcasing how he really felt about Jennifer. He didn't care. To Sergeant Vertreska, it was alarming because this was the mother of Fotis's 5 children, and he cared more about obtaining his lawyer's help and staying silent than assisting them in finding Jennifer. But the detectives did get something of value. Fotis had been holding his phone, and one of the detectives said, oh, can I see it? And Fotis was just standing there, and he agreed and even provided his passcode. He didn't really realize, they were about to snag it from him. But they took his phone and they wouldn't give it back, and he was really pissed off. But the detective remained in command and refused to return it, even though this detective knew he would have to wait to actually examine it since he would need to obtain a search warrant. But with no grounds to hold Fotis, the police were forced to release him, and I'm sure he wasn't happy about not getting his kids and not getting his way. But he did go out and get a new phone that night, and he texted Lauren at 9:23 p.m. saying, Lauren, it's Fotis. How are the children? She texted back saying, kids are doing okay, getting ready to sleep. And Fotis responds with, okay, any updates? And Lauren just said, no, not yet.
While all this was happening, on Saturday, investigators were combing through Jennifer's home, and they found a footprint of blood on the floor near the passenger side of the Range Rover area. It looked like the toe portion of a shoe.
Then on one of the garbage cans in the right bay of the garage on the exterior lid, they found drops of blood, and at the rear portion of the Range Rover, and a pinkish reddish smear on the floor that looked like a cleanup had occurred. There was also a smudged area on the center of a doorknob on the door leading into the house, so they carefully removed the entire doorknob and brought it in as evidence. They also found a small amount of blood on the top of a paper towel roll that was off its holder next to the kitchen sink, and more blood on top of the faucet of the kitchen sink, as well as the countertop. And they confiscated Jennifer's electronic toothbrush to get her DNA from it so they could compare it to any DNA found on the scene or anywhere else.
Everything they found so far, it indicated that someone had an injury, most likely Jennifer, likely caused by blunt force trauma. It was clear to them without testing the blood that they found in the car and garage for DNA that Jennifer had been attacked in her garage and was likely gravely or fatally wounded. Clearly, the main person who would want her out of his way is Fotis, so they were laser focused on him. Detectives were again out in Jennifer's neighborhood to see if neighbors had any ring cameras or have seen anything. It turned out the home at 54 Wells Lane had cameras specifically on the front of the house, facing toward the street at the end of the garage, and would pick up the street view. The owner was very helpful and provided detectives with the footage. They began on the morning of Friday, May 24th, and they saw Jennifer's vehicle leaving just before 8 a.m. At 7:58 a.m., Jennifer's SUV travels down Wells Lane. It showed up on a different camera at the same time with an even better view of it. They also got CCTV footage near the kids' school drop-off area, and Jennifer's SUV is seen around 8:03 a.m. on campus. We know the kids made it to school and that Jennifer dropped them off, so this confirms she was alive and driving there. And at 8:05 a.m., it showed that Jennifer had arrived home after dropping off her children. For the next 2 hours and 20 minutes, there was no movement observed in Jennifer's driveway. However, at 10:25 a.m., the footage captured something significant. Jennifer's black suburban SUV was seen backing out of her driveway and driving away, never to return. And then we know that they found it on the side of the road near Waveney Park. Later, they were able to find evidence that Jennifer's SUV was seen southbound on Weed Street at 10:29 a.m., which is in the direction heading toward Waveney Park. Police were also attempting to ping Jennifer's cell phone, and when they did, they found out that it tracked at 200 Lanpham Road. It went off the Verizon network at 11:09 a.m. that day.
Wow. So whatever happened to Jennifer happened in approximately 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's not a lot of time. Then the next day on Sunday, May 26th, Fotis is back to texting Lauren on his new phone. At 10:59, he texted, "Good morning, Lauren. How are the children?" And honestly, his texts alone creep me out. They're like so sterile. Like he copies and pastes the exact same thing every time. Even with the abbreviations and the dashes, just everything about it just annoys me. Lauren tells him the kids are doing fine. Then Fotis asks for information on his daughter, Christiane. Remember that she had been spending the night at a friend's? Well, he asked Lauren if Christiane was with her or if she was still with friends. And Lauren texted back saying she is with us. And Fotis said, "Okay, good. Somebody brought her to you?" And Lauren simply texted back, "Yes." Fotis asked if she was okay, and Lauren responds with, "They are all fine." Then Fotis finally says, "Okay, thanks. Any update on Jennifer?" To which Lauren doesn't answer because she feels really gross and worried, and she already thinks Fotis has the answer to his own question. Well, then out of nowhere and completely unannounced, he showed up at noon to Gloria's place in Manhattan, and they immediately called the police. When the officers arrived, Fotis told officers from New York Police Department that his children had been abducted, and he demanded that they be returned to him. Abducted? He's telling them because this is not the same police department that deals with him in Connecticut. So he's thinking, oh, they're not going to know. They're not going to know the truth. I cannot stand people like this. They were supposed to be with their mother when they left. Now they're with their grandmother. They have not been abducted.
And what's odd is despite Jennifer not missing for 48 hours, Fotis seemed convinced she wouldn't return, assuming custody of the children had reverted to him, even though there was an active restraining order against this man. He had only 1 day a week allowed for visitation, and this wasn't his day. What's more important is his kid's mother, who put that restraining order on him, is missing. It's like he thinks he is above the law.
Clearly. Well, the police already had all that information, so they informed him that Jennifer had a restraining order against him and a court order preventing him from having unsupervised visitation with the children. The fact that they knew this and were trying to enforce it enraged Fotis. He didn't like anyone having power or control over him, especially concerning his children. He seemed to disregard the restraining order, convinced that Jennifer's disappearance somehow nullified its terms. This behavior raised questions among the police about what Fotis knew that others didn't, and why he was so confident that Jennifer wouldn't be coming back. Why would he think the terms would be nullified if Jennifer went missing? That assumption seems very suspicious. Maybe like he had a reason to get rid of her, thinking, oh, she's gone. Everything will be dropped, and he'll get the kids, and he can take them to Greece or wherever he wants.
The police turned him away and explained that all the court-related parameters were still valid. But that didn't stop him from trying to communicate with Lauren. He goes back to texting his robotic text at 3:21 p.m. He texted, quote, "Hi, Lauren. How are the children?" This time, Lauren doesn't answer until 7:43 p.m. that night, and she said the children are fine. Then Fotis responds with, "Thanks for your response. Please send me updates every 3 hours."
Every 3 hours. Like, who is this man? And by then, Gloria had retained an attorney who advised Lauren to stop responding to Fotis, and the next business day, Gloria Farber also filed an emergency action to intervene in the ongoing custody case between Jennifer and Fotis as an interested third party. She was granted temporary custody of all the children, and all visitation with Fotis was immediately suspended. And this was due to the history of not respecting the law or previous family court orders. So Gloria also hired security for herself and the children, anticipating Fotis was likely to come back after he found out about these new court orders. There were over 500 pleadings in Fotis and Jennifer's custody case. Fotis often responded to losses with constant requests for reconsideration, countless motions to re-argue the same issues, motions for contempt, non-compliance, and regular requests to modify custody orders. It was a lot. When detectives got word of just how contentious this divorce was, it made them zero in on Fotis even more.
Officers visited Lauren to speak with her and show her pictures of the garage, asking if anything seemed out of place. She told the officers that at least 2 white camping pillows were missing. They were next to the 2 sleeping bags on the second shelf in the garage, where the kids kept their sports items. There was also a cleaning bucket Lauren had placed on the third half of the other side of the shelving unit, and it too was missing. It's where all the cleaning supplies were stored. Even a sponge from that bucket was now sitting on the floor under the shelves.
The garage had been meticulously searched, and so much more had been discovered, though most of it was minuscule. But there were high-velocity blood spatter on the floor, fingerprints found on the door leading into the home, and traces of blood evidence on the left bay that were all marked and preliminarily swabbed with a chemical called Castlemeyer, which is similar to luminol, except instead of lighting up blue, it lights up pinkish purple if blood is detected. Now back at the crime lab, the Suburban was examined more in depth as well, and more blood spatter was found on the lower portion of one of the doors. There was actually a number of areas that had blood on them, including inside the car, on the steering wheel, and more blood drops were found in the back trunk area. Luminol was used in that area, and it lit up blue under the alternate light source, indicating blood was present. The SUV was also missing its rubber liner that was in the trunk. They also dusted for fingerprints and found some in various areas of the car. A picture of what happened to Jennifer was beginning to emerge. After she came home from dropping the kids off, someone attacked her in the garage. Most of this attack seemed to have happened on the floor, possibly because she was hit in the head first, which is why there was blood on the front of the Range Rover. Maybe she was caught off guard as she began to enter the home and then fell to the ground, where she was repeatedly beaten because most of the blood spatter they found was on the lower portions of both the Suburban, which had been parked on the left side of the garage, and the Range Rover in the middle. The SUV was put on a lift, and the underside was swabbed, and there was blood spatter all over the underneath, along with other fluids and even particles that appeared to be tissue of some kind. A small speck with clear fluid was removed and sent for examination under a microscope.
The detectives believed that after Jennifer was killed, the killer attempted to clean up with those missing paper towels, the cleaning supplies, and the bucket that were also missing. Then Jennifer was put into the back of the Suburban and driven to the park or another location and dumped somewhere, and then her car was abandoned where it was ultimately found.
But where was Jennifer? Well, after she went missing, of course, the media picked up on the story. After all, it's a missing mother of 5. That alone makes for a story that would grab the attention of the public, especially in the area like New Canaan. Residents of this affluent neighborhood were stunned. Many who knew her were heartbroken for Jennifer. Her family, friends, and the entire community were in shock as they searched for answers and prayed for her safe return. Residents banded together to do whatever they could to aid in the search. One area where residents focused their efforts to assist was Waveney Park, where Jennifer's car had been found. Volunteers combed through this area looking for clues or evidence that could help locate her. Additionally, they distributed flyers around town, placing them in public spaces and inside local businesses. Recognizing the severity of the situation and the need for additional resources, the New Canaan police made the decision to reach out to the state police, the U.S. Marshals, and the FBI for assistance. On May 30th, 2019, 200 people attended a candlelight vigil for Jennifer. Attendees gathered in the church holding flickering candles and praying for a safe return. But we know, and so did many of her close friends, that she probably wasn't coming back. Her best friend, Carrie, became the official spokesperson for the entire family and her friends, and she told the media, quote, "All I want to say is, Jennifer, we love you. and we're doing everything we can to bring you home. Your kids miss you. We all miss you." End quote. Carrie said she knew in her bones as early as the day that Jennifer went missing, it was hopeless looking for her. Carrie's exact words was that she had a, quote, "foreboding sense that she was not alive," end quote. And that is so sad. But as they say, we do have gut feelings. And the New Canaan police had the same feeling because of everything that was found. But there were so many things that were not found, though it was clear foul play was involved.
And for now, we're going to end this as part 1. And we'll be back with part 2 because there is a lot of information and we don't want anyone to be confused.
Yeah, I mean, we get confused keeping up with it all. It's a lot to keep up with. And even last night when I was looking through a lot of the evidence, I was finding even more things I never knew about. So there's definitely going to be a lot. So there is going to be a part 2, and we hope you'll hold out and wait for us to come back next week to continue this deep dive. We have a lot to go over. And of course, we always want to hear your thoughts. So don't forget to leave them in the comments.
So thank you all for watching.
We will see you in our next video. Bye.